Hello again, and welcome if you are new. I know it's been a while since last time we were together, but last time we were together, we were planting out seeds last fall. Unfortunately, I've had struggles making updates since then, and there are many updates. I had picked up a part-time job since last we were together, and in combination with homeschooling and personal struggles, making videos became kind of a low priority. Not necessarily because I didn't want to, but because I had a little capacity for it. Either way, let's get into some updates and goals for 2025. Throughout the fall season into winter, we still had quite a bit of things growing out here. We had some cherry tomatoes and then these small luncheon sweet bell peppers still growing. The dead things, I pulled all the dead things out and we just planted some new seeds, and then in through November and December those grew, and then we were able to enjoy throughout the colder season some carrots, some radishes that we had planted here in October. We were still picking off of these mini bell peppers and some of the cherry tomatoes. Honestly, these cherry tomatoes just did not do very well. I believe that I planted them out a little bit too late, but also they just were not very happy. So I'm gonna have to figure that out for this year. And then also we planted a second round of these green beans over here, and they still were not happy. They were dying back and just having trouble producing, so I'm still at a loss with these green beans. I don't understand them, and I don't know. If you have any feedback, I would love to hear about that. Over on this side, when we had planted out the seeds, we had put 3 different varieties of radishes in here, and I had learned that my favorite variety was it was called the early red globe radish, and that one was very quick to grow, and that one I feel like was the best tasting one. The other ones took a lot longer and they just did not taste quite as good to me. My favorite way of eating those radishes are actually just to slice them up and eat them with a bit of salt. I'm the only one who will eat them in my family, and which that's okay, so I didn't want too many of them. Continuing on to this side, we had planted out several different varieties of carrots, and some were earlier short ones and some were more long season long ones, and parsnips and such. We didn't get any parsnips. The carrots were a little bit slow as the weather got colder, but we did get to pick those, which I'll come back to. We did plant these marigolds out here, but they were a little bit slow, so we actually didn't get any of the flowers to come up, so this year I'll be planting them out sooner. And then with the lettuce, I don't feel like I've had much success. I mean, it grows, but every time we try to eat it, it just tastes very bitter, and I don't understand why. I've grown it both in warmer and colder season, and I feel like every single time I taste it, it just tastes too bitter. And then on the side here were the Swiss chard, and the kale was still growing. We had planted some pole beans up against this trellis, however they didn't produce much, so I'm not exactly sure what happened there. They might have just needed a bit more time in order to grow before the cold weather hit, but either way we had some success with the Oregon sugar snap peas, I believe is what these were called. We were able to harvest on some of these throughout the early January and into later December, and so that was kind of nice. I actually was pleasantly surprised that I enjoyed these. I have tried sugar snap peas in the past and I just have not really liked them, but these Oregon, like I think they're called Oregon sugar peas or something like that, these ones were actually a little bit more to my liking, so that was nice. In mid to late December, all of the morning glories here just started to die back, and I left them here until they were dried out, and throughout November and December I would come out here and just collect some seeds. This morning glory would actually, wherever the flowers were, it would, if it was pollinated, it would put out a little bulb, and when they dried out, they were easy to harvest those little seeds so that I can replant it. Fortunately, and a little bit unfortunately, because I did let them dry out here, they did actually kind of reseed themselves. I had in the following year, I had a lot of them come up as volunteers, which I'll probably show that maybe in a later video, but yeah, they did reseed themselves quite heavily, so that's something to keep in mind if the morning glories are set out in a certain place. Thankfully, where they reseeded themselves is where I would like to have them again, so I'm not too worried about it this time, but I'll have to be kind of weeding them back as needed. So yeah, something to keep in mind. I had found for 2024 the flowers, including these morning glories, were something that brought me so much joy. These morning glories, we had planted them in late spring, and they had come up, and then all of summer, because of the heat, they had stayed all green. But then as soon as the heat kind of improved in September, they started putting out so many different colored flowers, and they were beautiful. On this wall we had a mixture of different colors, and then on the other side of the fence I had exclusively planted the blue ones. So the blue ones were absolutely gorgeous, but they did take a lot longer to come out. The mixed colored ones came out quickly, but then the blue ones came out pretty much after the mixed color ones were done blooming. And then additionally we had the zinnias that was attracting all of our beautiful butterflies, and we had so much fun with the butterflies last year. So this year I definitely would like to plant a lot more flowers, and that is the goal for sure. The way that I ended up dealing with the peppers, because they were so overgrown, I had cut all the branches off. We had picked off every last pepper that was on there, including any green ones, because we did enjoy pickling those, and so we had those pickled throughout this season, and we had a couple throughout the winter seasons, which we really enjoyed. I cut back all the leaves, and I had thought to myself that it would be kind of fun to try and see if they would survive in the ground like this. I've seen people save their peppers, but I believe that you would have to do them indoor because it is just too cold to keep them outdoors. So I cut them back. I wanted to see if they would survive. Shocker, they did not. They did not like that it was so cold. Truly, it did not bother me because I was just kind of experimenting to see what would happen. So they did die back, and I pulled them out, and for sure I intend on seeding some new small lunch peppers. Something that I thought was really interesting about the cherry tomatoes, they had actually put a branch out through the fence to the other side of the fence. And this one branch seemed like it was so much more productive than the whole rest of the bushes on the other side. As you can see, this one was always loaded, always trying to push out more tomatoes, and I believe that that's because this branch was just receiving more sun in the fall seasons, and the tomatoes really liked that. So this inspired a whole new project for me, which I'm going to be going over in a future video. But yes, I am really excited to see how things would grow on this side of the fence. In the beginning of January, we actually got 8 to 10 inches of snow, but it was only for about 2 or 3 days that it lasted, which honestly is a bit unusual for our area. We do get a little bit of snow in January, but primarily we get a lot of sleet and icing in the winter in January and February. However, this time we did get 8 to 10 inches, and that ensured that everything else that was not cold hardy just died off, and this is what the garden was looking like. We got to enjoy the snow. We built our snowman because we had enough snow and got prepared for the next season. From here in January, you could see a little bit that the herb bed is looking a little different, so that is something that I will be talking about again in a different video because that was a bit of a process. Here was the sketch I had kind of sketched in my notepad for what I wanted to accomplish, and we got to work on this plan. And of course this plan kind of changed along the way. There was a couple things I had changed my mind on, but it was really nice to have a little bit of a sketched out in my notepad because I was honestly feeling very overwhelmed this year to start a new garden season. So having a little bit of a sketch with kind of a bit of a plan of what I wanted to put where and how I wanted to put it really helped me to start the new garden season out with a good solid foundation. One of the first things I had to address was this greenhouse. I had gotten this frame, it's probably been about 2-3 years. I got the frame with a off of Amazon. It's like it had a case on it or a cover or whatnot, and the cover I had to replace it twice because it just kept ripping apart, but the frame itself was still in decent order. So what I did is I measured it out, and I had went ahead and purchased some greenhouse, I'm not sure exactly what it's called, like a greenhouse cover in the kind of the size that I did my best to calculate how big it would be. I purchased it and then I went ahead and installed it. It took a little while for it to get there, but once I got it installed on there, then I felt comfortable to go ahead and start some seeds. This year I had kind of come to the conclusion that I think that my best success would come if I was able to start a lot more of the plants I want in the garden from seed, because I felt like I was waiting a little bit too long to get things in the ground because I was planting the seeds out and not really transplanting or anything like that. I was just planting them out, and then I was planting the seeds for other things a little bit too late and transplanting them out a little too late. So I was really determined this year, although I was feeling very overwhelmed, to just go ahead and get as many things planted as seeds in advance so that I could transplant them a little earlier. I always wondered why this process was so hard for me, but then the weather kind of helped me to understand that it was not going to play nice. So unfortunately I had set up this garden as this greenhouse. We went ahead and we got our seeds planted, and those were doing okay, but we did have a couple of frosty nights still, so the seedlings did end up dying, and then I ended up having to replant them yet again. And then we had a winter storm that came through. That was a wind storm, more so, that we had, I believe, up to 80-mile-per-hour winds. So the greenhouse actually got completely destroyed, and I had to bring the seeds inside. Thankfully, I had taken the weather warning and we went ahead and brought all the seeds inside, so they were safe, but the greenhouse was completely destroyed after that windstorm. So needless to say, this garden season, I was dreading it for a reason, and it's okay. We're making it happen, and yeah. Truthfully, this year I had spent a lot of time, unfortunately, very discouraged, and I was seriously contemplating whether or not I should just not garden this year and maybe just take a break. But you know, the bug hit, and here we are working away to make this garden happen. And truthfully, I am a lot more encouraged now. We got a lot of plants in the ground, we got a lot of little seedlings growing, so there was definitely a moment of despair, I guess, after the seedlings died, after the greenhouse got ruined, after, you know, there was just so much work to do to kind of get the garden going, and I was just busy, so it was a bit of a process, but we are still working away here. These clips here were actually back from the end of January when we had started our first round of seeds, and so these ones were the ones that actually died, and then when I planted them, I had ended up just planting them into a one of those red cups, because it just seemed like it was going to be a little bit simpler. These smaller cells of pots were just a little bit more difficult to keep alive in some ways, because they would just dry out very quickly, and I just felt a little bit stressed out as to how much of transplanting there would need to be, like up potting, I guess is the right term. But either way, what we did this year is I actually went ahead and I purchased 2 of the canning bulb books last year, and I had looked through them, and my focus this year was actually to go ahead and get a bunch of different varieties of peppers, a bunch of different varieties of tomatoes kind of grown, because I had found a lot of recipes in these books that I was really interested in trying, and they had had a lot of these different types of peppers and tomatoes. So I just got several different variety packs, and these are the different kinds of variety packs I had gotten. I had also gotten some new items. I purchased some of these Luffa gourds, which this will be the first time I try them. Additionally, I got some Cucamelon seeds, which were really just for fun. I really wanted to try them. And then we're definitely going to try and regrow some of the luncheon sweet bell peppers like we did last year. But last year I had bought the red pepper variety from Amazon, and they were just already plants that needed to just be transplanted in. This time I had bought some seeds, but they were more colorful variety, so those I'm hoping we kind of get some more of those so I can pickle them again. Those were kind of a fan favorite around here, so those will be fun if we can get those. And then I also got last year a big old pack of marigolds, so I am definitely going to be trying to get a lot of the marigolds into the garden this year. I had kind of scattered them all over the place as seeds, so hopefully we can have those in the garden to kind of ward off some of the pest pressure that we keep receiving. I also will be planting just herbs kind of around and about, and we'll come back to kind of the more in-depth herb and all the things that we had planted. We will definitely be bringing back some cucumbers and some zucchinis. I also went ahead and put in some eggplants this year. I don't feel like those had a really good year last year, so hopefully this year they will be doing better. And definitely I will be watching out for the different pests that like to follow all of that. So I am definitely hoping and believing for a good year of gardening this year. I have so much more I'd like to get into, but I think I'll leave this video here. I will continue making updates and sharing other projects that I've been working on as soon as possible. I'm really looking forward to what this year will bring, and if you'd like to follow the journey, please subscribe and like this video. I'd love to hear your thoughts and any wisdom you can pass on, so place that in the comments if you would like. And thanks for watching. I will see you in the next one. Bye.